today? Maybe a little frustration setting in on the offense. What did you kind of make of the practice today?
Yeah, we were rolling pretty good yesterday. And really for the last couple of days, we've had some good days of stacking things together. Today was tough with the elements. The balls got pretty slick as practice went on, which I think was evident and you could see. But it was good training for us. Houston's just different as far as the heat goes, but we don't deal with the wet conditions as often as I feel like you do in some other places. So it's really good training for us. Just how to adjust to that. Receivers, how to keep our feet. O-linemen, how to anchor. How we still want to approach the run game. We need it, and I think that showed today. The defense made the adjustment today, and we didn't, and we will going forward.
What is your mindset when you have to go up against Matt Burke and D'Amico Ryan? It seems like sometimes they throw these little wrinkles at you when you're calling plays.
Yeah, it's competitive. It's kind of all the way across the board. O-line, D-line, receivers, corners, tight ends, backers, backs, linebackers. It gets really competitive all the time. It always feels like it's a back and forth. The scheme wise with Burke and D'Amico, it kind of feels a little bit like who has a chalk glass. He'll come out one day and we'll have some issues, and then we come out the next day and we have answers, and then it just endlessly cycles. But that's training camp. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it competitive. That's what's really cool about just being able to hammer in and drill in your fundamentals. And that's really what training camp's about, is when you're on your fundamentals, it really, what I call, what D'Amico called, really doesn't matter.
Speaking of competition, you have your, what we like to consider in the media the big three, the D'Amico, Diggs, and Tank. When you look at that second set of wide receivers, what does it really take for some of those receivers like John Lynch or Xavier Hutchinson to maybe get some playing time once the regular season starts?
Yeah, it really goes back to fundamentals, guys that can go in and execute what we preach across the board in the pass game and the run game from the starting point fundamentally, then can go execute that in the game. And particularly if they can play multiple positions, which almost all of our backups can play multiple positions, it just helps get them on the field in different areas and different spots. And then how we approach it as an offense is we're always going to try to put people in the best position to do what they do best, so we're going to make sure guys are in for specific things that they're really good at. And if they're not necessarily great at something, we'll make sure that they got 100% in the tank when their play is called.
Yesterday you all had your best practice yesterday, or one of your best practices. And today there were a few picks. What would you say were, I know it's early, some of the reasons for some of the struggles today?
Yeah, I just hit that. You're all right. But basically, today we've stacked some good days. We've got back to executing, being efficient in both run and pass game. And then today the defense came out, they competed, and we competed, but we weren't quite as ready to handle the elements today. It was wet, it was rainy. The balls got more difficult as practice went on, as far as how to grip them, how to throw them, how to take the snap, things like that. It got harder for the O-lineman as practice went on to anchor, to fire off the ball. And we're going to play in games like this. We need the training, we need the work. The defense adjusted faster and better than we did, and that's what we got to go in and we got to talk about, we got to fix.
You may have answered this question already, but what do you thought so far about Blake Fisher?
Yeah, he's out there competing, just like the rest of the crew. I think we say it endlessly, but we really preach that to the whole group, just tirelessly. That's what this is about. It's about going out and every day growing and getting better than you were the day before. And by the time week one rolls around, we know we're going to be ready. But in the meantime, all we can do is get better every day. And Blake has done that. In pass pro, he particularly has made some technique adjustments that have helped him for sure. The rushers he's going against have helped him. I know he's had a lot of conversations with them on what they're thinking, what they're doing. And, talking to other old linemen has obviously helped him. And then the run game for us is just very different than where he came from college. But he's been doing a good job. He's bought in. And really right now I'd say he's probably a little further ahead in the run game than the pass game. But he's just got to put his head down and keep growing.
You had a lot of time here without Joe in the running back room. What if the guys kind of made the most of their opportunities without him, with Damien and Camp's come in the past couple weeks, and kind of seems like he's fitting in now well. What do you made of that running back room?
Yeah, it's a fun group to coach. Joe kind of leads the way Even though he hasn't been practicing, his energy's always there. He's always around. He's even when we're on the field, he's running around the huddle, getting people hyped up. So he's the driving force for sure. And then the rest of the crew kind of feeds off that. Damien's feeding off that. He's putting his head down, working. He's made huge strides from where he was at last year and what he's grown in and what he's trying to do. Cam is obviously the newest to the crew, but he's been running a lot of very similar stuff in LA for a long time, and then in Minnesota it was pretty similar as well. So it's not completely new to him, and he picked it up quick. You can see the talent and the vision and the cutting ability, which is impressive coming off the 2 injuries he had. So he's been fun. We got the 2 young rookies, that rookies are always enjoyable because they always just bring something new to the table. And then, Dare and JJ, they're really probably the 2 most consistent guys. Day in, day out, they bring the lunch pail. And they're pretty even keel all the way through, and it's a fun group.
When you have a guy as young as established but still young like CJ, what are the next things that you need or you want to see, especially when you might play in this preseason game right here? What are the next steps that you want to see?
Yeah, same as everyone else. I just want to see him grow. Everybody has a whole lot that we can continue to get better at. We can continue to improve upon. And it could be something big that really affects the entire offense, or it could be something very small that's just for him individually. But every day we give out specific coaching points to individuals. Obviously, he gets a lot of those, and just focusing on those every day, emphasizing those every day, and just stacking good days right now is really huge for CJ.
Coach, a lot of the players that are coming into the second year under your offense, they've learned it more. They said that they feel more comfortable. Now, how do you continue to implement new things throughout training camp and throughout the preseason without giving so much away to the opponent?
Yeah, truthfully, training camp and preseason, we kind of emphasize, I guess you could say, the starting point of our scheme. And that goes back to what I preached earlier about fundamentals and really hammering and drilling those in. Like in training camp, you're not always going to be in a great position to do what you need to do. I'm not always going to script a great play call for CJ to go and throw to number 1. I might intentionally script a play where he has to get all the way to last in the progression as an outlet. Like, we want it to be hard. And they embrace that. They know that. There's days it gets frustrating for all of us, and there's days where, we really are on our game and we go out and we perform like we believe we should, and we got to keep those. We got to get more consistent right now. That's what this is about. That's what scheme-wise, that usually takes off, evolves as we go through the season. As coaches, you're always talking about ideas. You kind of have a library as you go through the off-season. This is a good way to do this. This is a nice new little wrinkle. But training camp, you're focused in on this is what we need to do every week, no matter what we're doing schematically to go win a game. Yeah, I've just been fired up to see him pick up right where he left off. He's playing really fast. He's executing the routes really well. He's done everything we've asked him to do. He can run for days. He embraces all phases of the game, whether it's receiver, returner, run game, all that stuff. I mean, he's all about it. He's been doing a great job. If he just keeps putting his head down and working, he's going to be where he wants to be.
As a collective receiving group, what do you feel like, obviously, just, a lot of depth and guys that can throw out passes. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I just answered this one also, but it's kind of it's a cool room. There's a lot going on. Obviously, as far as players we have there that can go perform, and a lot of them right now are doing that, getting better every day, showing their best selves. And it's our job when we get in season and when we get into preseason games to really make sure we're putting guys in position to go show that to everyone else. But we really know what each individual is really good at, and we need to keep stacking where we need improvement for each of those guys, and it's been fun to see so far.
Thanks, Bobby.
Yep, thanks.
Coach, you done great in the military.
Try.
I went to college here. I went 50 minutes south, 55 minutes south from my hometown, Youngstown. Yeah, yeah. It's been we timed it up perfectly, didn't we? Come up here. Yeah, and I said this would be like you saw the patch, like the patch of grass. I'm getting off the thing. The patch of grass is like the only football field I could ever play in the NFL on because it's slow track. All right, what's going on, guys? Good to see you.
What did you think about seeing it for the first time in action? How the kickoff did it feel different? Like a lot different, kind of coaching it up in real action.
It was such a learning experience. Every coaching staff I had a bunch of people reach out to me. It felt way different than practice in my estimation, my opinion. Hey, how fast do we really run and hit? Hey, how fast do these blockers get on you? How fast do these cover players get on top of their blocks? So it felt tremendously different. We're able to go back and people were the guys doing it were able to say, oh, like here's how that really feels. So as much as you go live in practice, pads on, we've had those training camp periods where it's full team kick return and we're padded, but you don't really finish on the ball carrier. And, that was our first time of doing that. So we learned a lot. And I think individually, what do those blocks look like? It was a huge gaining, learning experience. And every team across the league is about to feel that is going to play for the first time this weekend. So there's a lot to adjust and continue to move forward on.
How impressed have you been by Tommy Thompson?
Yeah, it's been good so far. When anytime you come into a new system, it's not only like the scheme, punting's punting relative, but working with your new coworkers there between Weeksy and Kaimi. How does Kaimi like? How does his walk off, his steps, what's his tempo of warm up like? So it's been really, really good. Really happy with where we are and excited.
With the kickoffs, it seemed like it's still just very hard-hitting and violent. It just happens faster.
Yeah, I think it's like the first time we did it in practice, it felt quiet early. There, you definitely don't have those run-up hits. We have done a good job of eliminating the collisions from the coverage to the blocking players. But at the point of attack, there's still a relative amount of violence. We saw that in our game, and people will learn how to adjust. And just to be clear, though, we do have some flexibility to move players with our off-the-line players and having a couple players in the back end, 2 returners. But, it's relatively generic relative to, hey, let's just make sure our line assigned and make sure we can then play singular blocks pretty clean for that first time going out there. But, yeah, at the point of attack, football's still football. These guys are hungry and they want to go cover and they want to go finish their blocks. So, Sims, he's going to hit that return, et cetera, and we saw that from both us and Chicago.
When you're giving feedback to Miko and whoever else about returners, what kind are you looking for from the guys in practice versus maybe some game reps, and how do they go about solidifying themselves as a returner that you can trust?
Yeah, trust is a big word. So there's a whole it's a brand. We turned back the rules of how you play the ball on the goal line. What is a touchback? How do we field a ball? We have to down every kick. You have to be a great decision maker. If the ball hits the ground, they can start running. So can we catch it out of the air? We saw that yesterday in practice, with the wind. There's a ton to be learned. You have to have great ball handling decision makers back there first and foremost. And then run style will, vary player to player. And it's our job to find out how, we could best suit their skill set. Hey, we wanted this player to run this style return. You saw what we were working on a little bit today, trying to flank a little bit, but just showing that you're true to your style of running, and we'll try and put you with those returns to use that. I was asked that question in a production meeting, and everybody runs different. We can't square peg round hole it, so every single person has to. There's some general rules of thumb on how you run, but everybody has to run to their style, and we have to do a good job of accentuating those when we design the return for them.
How have you been able to manage?
Last one, sorry.
How have you been able to manage the amount of depth that you all have, especially with the amount of players that are so versatile that can play, their skill position, but also play on special teams as well?
Yeah. Every year's been unique. This is going on to the 4th season, and every year's been different with construction of the roster. Every single rep matters. In my opinion, there's been some freaking hungry reps of players in practice. It's made the competition gritty. It's made a competition, real. And it's going to be, decision time is going to be tough, all that good stuff. But managing that depth is a never-ending process, so as we roll through the back end of the receiving room, the tight end room, the running back room, the linebacker room, the safety room, who can do, what for you, and finding ways to put guys in spots to be successful. So it's been a yearly challenge. Nothing I want to say different, but never easy to get it perfectly right. So, to the players, just making sure they know every time you step out there, even if it's I'm usually an end, but now I'm going out to be in the vice. Like, hey, got to show what you can do, and see how it goes. It's been a stiff camp. It's been really good competition. So excited with where we're going.
Thanks, Frank.
Okay. All right. Little Italy. I took all the specialists. Make sure you stop at Trattoria.
Nah. All right, I hear that. How we doing?
The back and forth competition that you all have been having with the offense. So it seems like on Monday, they had a really good practice. They got the best of your offense.
Oh, don't say that.
But today,
Nah.
came back and you all simply got the best of them. What is it like?
Yeah, I think that that's your quote, not mine. Say got the best of them. But no, I think that's what we try to build here, right? Like that's, the belief system that competition makes everyone better. Like competition within position groups, for those guys competing for jobs, then obviously across the ball and trying to bring in as much talent and, making each other better and iron sharpen iron, all those things that we preach, it's really kind of come to fruition. And I think like a little bit like being isolated here has kind of lended itself to that. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of in our own little bubble here and it's kind of all you have to do is like really like line up, across from the guy in front of you. And, hopefully that speaks to both sides of the ball, like what we're trying to build, in terms of like kind of good days, kind of better days, bad days, whatever you want to call it. Like it kind of goes back and forth. I mean, even within a practice or period to period, and it's cool. Like you start to see, like they'll make a couple plays and all of a sudden like Aziz is pulling the whole defense up like, come on, man. Or like we'll make a couple plays and Steph or CJ are bringing the group up, so I feel like it's trying to like, you feel that building. It's been fun to witness for sure.
No surprise, but Derek Stingley breaking really well on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think just kind of this practice and it's kind of emblematic of a lot of practices, but just how you put today?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sting, I never like to say the best, but is one of the best ball corners in the league. Like he's got elite ball skills. I mean, obviously he's big and powerful. Like he's always, tight in coverage, but can go snatch it. I think that's probably one of his superpowers. So it doesn't surprise me when he goes and makes those type of plays.
You had two veterans, the defensive tackle spot last year, Sheldon in the league. You got it again, but it's two different guys. Fadakasi and Edwards. Fadakasi had a little experience with this system in New York. And then you mentioned that Edwards, maybe this is kind of the system he maybe should have been in. What have you kind of seen from that duo?
Yeah.
It seems like they really set the tone a lot.
Yeah, I mean that whole group, I sort of talked about that, the D tackle group before. Like, I really like kind of where they're at and they're working through Foley. I was with him in New York that year, so he does have a little bit of history in the system. Obviously a bigger body. I mean, really strong hands. So like if he can get off and gets his hands on a lineman, like it's hard to move him. So a different kind of maybe style than we had last year. Mario's been a revelation. I think he's just been super explosive. He's probably adapted or taken to the techniques probably better than anyone in the short time that we've had. So sometimes it takes a while for guys to go from, especially a 9-year vet or whatever he is, from a read or different types or like different alignments to really like consistently buy in like to an attack technique that we ask him to play. He's probably adapted better than anyone in such a short time. So explosive athlete, yeah. I joke with him like, man, if you were in this front for your whole career, I mean, it's hard to knock a 10-year career. So I'm not saying he hasn't a great one, but it's fun to see him sort of come to growth in this for sure.
I know you're not privy to all the rumors that get out there. But I'm just curious, what do you think about?
I don't listen to any rumors.
What do you think about the safety room? Are you pleased with where you all are at right now?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's been great. I actually think Jimmy's had like a really good time up here. Just starting to sort of show up and sort of impact plays more. Peachy's been really good. Like it's just the same thing. I mean, I feel like I broke a record sometimes. Like the depth that we've had. Kalen's been had a pretty good game on Thursday night and has really shown up, like ranging the ball and playing more physical. And then the kind of two vet guys we have in the room with E. Murray and MJ, like. Man, we've been mixing those packages a lot, again, trying to get guys in different spots and trying to get guys against different competition and whatnot. So I don't know what rumors you're talking about, but like I feel really good about our depth, and all those guys have been kind of growing in what we're asking them to do. And like I said, I feel like even a guy like Jimmy like is starting to like sort of show up. I feel like he's kind of a forgotten man sometimes. So Jimmy's been making some plays the last few practices and starting to he's on the come a little bit. So feel good about where that whole group's working.
Speaking of depth and competition, when you're out on the field,
This is weird with no.
when you're out on the field, you're not able to see everything all at once. How important is it for you to be able to lean on your position coaches to be able to fill in that gap when you're not on the field?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously huge. I mean, like you said, we're all kind of spread thin, and I think honestly, like underrated. When you're a position coach, you spend more time with that group than anybody. You're in the room with them. I mean, especially in training camp, and especially when you're like this away at a camp, it's like you're in the room with them nonstop. I mean, they're spending 10, 12 hours a day with them. You know what I mean? Practice, meetings, everything, having dinner with them. So, a lot of times the insight of like, hey, what's a guy struggling, or why is this happening, or hey, he feels good about this, or those conversations that are happening, which again, are kind of a cool offshoot of coming away for camp for a little bit. Like you're just kind of like in different environments with those guys. So yeah, that's always like those ongoing conversations. And I'm floating around during individual periods sometimes, but those guys that are really drilling it and hammering down and can see some of like, obviously the more detail in their rooms, it definitely helps. Those guys are doing a good job.
Last couple guys. Derek Barnett, guy that you guys got in the middle last year.
Yeah.
He was kind of just learning on the fly. I think, and they kind of came on towards the back end of the year. Where have you seen him now? You've had him for an off season. He had some experience carry over from last year.
Yeah. He's had a lot of experience. I mean, I coached Derek for a couple of years in Philly. I mean, honestly, like you talk about this 10,000 hours, like he's probably had more get off reps in an attack front than, I don't know, Brandon Graham's still going, so maybe not BG, but I mean, like he's played this system almost his whole career, some form of it. And I would say he's probably just a little bit healthier now. Like he kind of came back pretty fresh and rejuvenated. So I think his get-off's been really, really good. He's showing up. He's always, I think I've said this in the past, man, he's one of the toughest guys I've ever been around as a coach, like just from a physical standpoint and throwing his body in there. So that shows up almost sometimes to a fault. But he's in a really good spot. I think he's doing a really good job for us this camp.
How do you monitor the
Last one.
Oh, having fun, man. We're good.
How do you monitor the amount of reps that your starters are going to play?
I don't. I do whatever D'Amico tells me. No, I mean, it's a balance. Again, it's always a balance of, how much work we want those guys to get and being smart and those sort of things. So I know Meek came out and said he wants everyone to get some work this week. So we actually haven't even really dove into those conversations. Usually maybe tonight, tomorrow, as we start to move through the week, we'll really try to be like, okay, which guys we want to do how much and stuff. And again, like things change over the next couple of days with who's available and whatnot. So, yeah, he has a vision for sort of like big picture how he wants to do things, and then usually we'll have a conversation about like just really specifically going through each position and trying to set a rotation that makes sense for us. And then honestly, like in game, you never know, right? The games get canceled in the third quarter. I mean, crazy stuff happens. Our offense had first drive of 18 play or whatever it was, 16 plays. So some of that's like in-game too conversations like, hey, we said we only want to go a couple series, but it's been 2-3 and outs, so we want to get another rack or whatever that is. Or, hey, we haven't had a lot of third downs, we want to keep a group out to get a couple third down rushes. Like, there's all those conversations kind of happen in game as well. So we haven't really totally started that yet, but looking forward to everyone getting some work this week for sure. Cool. All right, guys. Enjoy. Yeah.